decided to be doing this update with you guys for good reason. This is my Pan Those Eyeshadows Pan the Way plus my 101 pans update combined. I've decided to combine all my Pan Those eyeshadows in one update in general, and I'll explain why now. How is everybody? If you're new here, hi, thanks for stopping by. Welcome to the family. My name is Rose. I'm a girl boss on a budget who loves to save money and project pan. Today's video is, as you can tell, a little bit of a change. I have decided with the new year to kind of combine some of my videos and my updates so it's not so hard on my schedule and trying to do so many updates on so many different projects. So what I have decided to do is combine both my Pan Those Eyeshadows updates in conjunction with my 101 pans updates in one big video each month or every 6 weeks, whichever happens first depending on how many pans I hit and the progress on these projects. With that being said, we will go ahead and I will start with my project that I have created called Pan the Way, and we will do the update on that one first, and then following that I will then update you guys on the 101 pans. Since of course every pan that I hit counts towards my 101 pans, whether it's an eyeshadow or not, whatever type of product that I hit pan in, I count it towards my 101 pans just because I started a little later than everybody else. And to me, realistically, at the rate and pace that I'm going, I don't think I'm gonna no way hit 101 pans of straight eyeshadow by the end of this year, since it is now officially 2020. And if you are interested in joining my project called the Pan the Way, I will have a sign up sheet down in the description box of this video. What the goal of Pan the Way is you have to enter all of your eyeshadows into a wheel of some sort. It is 100% roulette style, and you spin the wheel and pick as many eyeshadow palettes as you want. Then once you pick your eyeshadow palettes from the wheel, all random style, you would count each eyeshadow palette, however many shades are in that palette. So for example, let's use the Pinky Rose, and there are 14 eyeshadows in here, so you would enter 1 to 14 into a random number generator to then generate the number of the shadow that you're going to pan. Starting from top left to right is how you would generate your shade by counting. Say at pick number 8, you would count from the top, my left, to the right, and then you would pick that shadow. If you are interested in joining, I would love to have you. I will have the sign up sheet down below for you guys. Let's go ahead and get into it. When I did this project, I had 4 eyeshadow palettes that I had decided to go with, and what was chosen for me from Pan the Way was my Bright Lights palette from Pinky Rose Cosmetics, my After Hours palette from Bad Habit, my Julius Place Warrior palette, and my 35H from Morphe was chosen. Let's go ahead and start with my Pinky Rose Bright Lights palette. This was randomly drawn for me from the wheel, hence the name of the project, Pan the Way / Wheel Decide, and it generated number 3 for me, and number 3 ended up being the shade right here called Punky, which is, of course, it is a totally bright, beautiful palette. I got drawn this very teal-esque bright blue shade, and you guys, I've been having such a hard time. I did do some looks with it. If there's any looks that I have created, I will insert some photos to show you. From my last month's update to this update, you guys, I'm just gonna be real. I have not used this not one time. December was a very, very crazy month. I didn't even do my makeup that much, let alone trying to focus on any of my Pan Those eyeshadows. Do have some good news, and we'll get to that in a little bit. I've used this shade, I'm looking at my notes, a total of only 4 times. I got such a ways to go on that. So this is staying in the project again until obviously the goal is to you will hit pan, and once you hit pan is when you can then pick new shadows. I have decided to keep track of my uses and tallies, so only 4 uses with that, so we got a little bit of ways to go. On my next palette, which was randomly chosen, is my Julius Place Warrior palette. I do have some good news with this one because the shade that was chosen for me was this shade Kano, and as you can see, I hit the pan on Kano, which is very exciting. I hit the pan on this on December 24th, so I have since waited. I have not chosen any new eyeshadow palettes to go ahead and do. I waited until this update so I can pick the new palettes with you guys and a new shade with you guys. So yes, I hit pan on Kano. I'm very excited. So because I hit my pan on this, it then gets rolled out and we get to pick a new palette, and I will show you guys right now on how you go about choosing your palettes and picking your shades for Pan the Way. Let's go ahead and we will choose a new eyeshadow right now. As you can see, there is my wheel with my eyeshadows all inside, and I'm just gonna go ahead and spin it so we can pick a new palette right now. 35H. Now that's the other thing I wanted to explain. I'm glad it kind of drew this so I can explain this. Since I'm already working on 35H is already in this round, if it re-chooses any eyeshadow palettes that are already have been worked on or have worked on, I will try to pull those out and not use them again. So since this has already been used, let's go ahead and pick another one. Sweet Talk palette, that is the ColourPop palette. Let me go get it and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back and I got my Sweet Talk palette from ColourPop. So we are going to go ahead and pick the shade right now. I'm sorry if my voice sounds raspy and on my nose and I'm sniffling. I'm just getting over what I think was strep throat. My voice is still very raspy and I'm still kind of stuffy, so I do apologize for the sniffling and all of that. But as you can see, this is a really beautiful peachy toned palette and there are 12 shadows in here. So how I will generate the shadow is I go to my Pretty Random app and I will enter 1 to 12 into the app, and I don't know why it always goes to 49, but it always does. So let's go ahead and pick the shadow right now, which is number 4. So number 4 from top left to right is 1, 2, 3, 4, which is Work It, which is a very neutral shade. Again, I'm very excited about that just because neutrals are easier to pan, I've noticed, and I already have that bright blue, which has been just a challenge. So there is Work It. It is a warm neutral brown shade, very pretty. It's kind of similar to the shade Kano. Speaking of Kano, I forgot to mention to you guys the number of uses on that. I do apologize. My brain is mush. I'm still sick, so please bear with me. So as you can see, here is my notes. I used Kano now because that is especially very impressive considering how big these pans are. You know, I got a little excited and I wanted to pick the new palette, but back to the shade Kano from the Warrior palette. Look how big those pans are. I'm very impressed and very proud of myself. The fact that I hit the biggest pan first out of my selection for Pan the Way. I used the shade Kano a total of 39 times. You guys, I used it every single day, sometimes 2-3 times a day. I used it as bronzer. I used it in my brows. I used it in my crease. Even on days when I wasn't wearing makeup, I would use it. So I got 39 uses out of it. It took before I could hit pan on it. And it was a brand new shade, maybe used once or twice before I put it in a project. So it takes about 39, 40 uses, I would say, to hit the pan on one of Julius Place's bigger pans. I couldn't say that. But I'm very excited. Of course, now to replace it is the shade Work It from the Sweet Talk palette, which is this neutral kind of brown shade. I want to swatch the shade Kano to see how similar they actually are, because they do look very similar. Kano is a little more brown toned though. So there is Work It and there is Kano. This is from a previous recording. Pay it no attention. They are very similar but yet different. Work It is a little more warm toned than Kano was, and I thought Kano was warm toned, but Work It is even more warm toned. So we'll see how that goes. Now on to the next palette that was chosen from my intro on this. Of course, I'll link it in the cards for you guys if you want to go check out the intro. I explain in more detail on how you actually pick your palettes and your shades, but I think I did a pretty good job at explaining it. The third palette chosen was my After Hours palette from Bad Habit. It chose the shade Eye Contact right here. I need to make an announcement on this. I have since decluttered this and came to the decision that I am decluttering this palette because I own already Huda Beauty's Mauve Obsessions, which is what it is a dupe for, and this is my Pan That palette for 2020. So since I already own the original palette and have since bought this for my Pan That palette, I'll link that video in the description for you guys as well. Feel free to go check it out. I explain what my goals are on this palette as a whole for the year. Since I have this as my Pan That palette, I have since decided to declutter my After Hours, which actually I'm very impressed. I'm quite proud of myself because it's very hard for me to declutter and to learn to let go. So this is my first palette that I officially decluttered, and I am very proud of myself. With that being said, since I am decluttering that, we need to go back in and now pick another palette and a shade. So let's go back to my wheel and we will spin it again, and we're going to pick another shade right now for Pan the Way, which it chose the Warrior palette, which, like I said, if it's already palettes that I've worked on or have worked on in the past, I'm not going to be reselecting those. We got to pick again. Sea Color Savannah, which is the Natasha Denona dupe palette. Let me go get that and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back and I got my Savannah palette from Sea Color Cosmetics. This is a dupe for the Natasha Denona Safari palette, which is kind of nice because it is an all matte eyeshadow palette, which I'm kind of excited because no matter what it picks out of here, it's going to be a matte shadow for me to pan. So I'm excited about that. So let me go ahead and count the shadows in here. There's 15 shadows in here. So let me enter 1 to 15 back on my Pretty Random app, and 4 was from the last one, so let's go ahead and redo it again, and it chose number 15. Which number 15 is the last shade in the palette, which is of course another warm tone brown shade. There's no shade names on these, but let's go ahead and swatch it because it looks very, very similar to Work It from ColourPop. So there's the shade from Safari. Let me re-swatch Work It from ColourPop Sweet Talk on my same wrist so we can compare how similar they are in color. Work It is still a little bit warmer in tone than the Savannah one, but that was from Kano from Warrior. This is the new one from Savannah, and this is the Work It shade from ColourPop. So they're very similar, just Work It is a very peachy, warm tone brown. This is pretty neutral, just a little bit warm. So there are some browns there I'm pretty excited about that. Okay, and then the last palette that was chosen on my intro to this was my 35H palette from Morphe. It chose the shade Alterego, which was the shade right here, and I've only used this shade a total of 6 times, so I've got some usage left on to go on that before I hit pan. And this goes again, I have not used this shadow at all last month. I want to say I've used it one time. I think my last month's update I had 4 uses, now I'm at 6, so I've used it a couple times. We got some work to do on that. So for Pan the Way, I have my Bright Lights with the shade Punky. I still have the 35H, the shade Alter Ego, and then now we have the Sweet Talk with the shade Work It, and then the Savannah palette with the very last shade, number 15, from right to left, being the last one is the warm tone, kind of neutral brown shade. So those are my 4 palettes for Pan the Way. We will see how well I do, if I can hit any more pans or make any more progress whatsoever with these, and of course we will come back in a month from now and do another update. On to my 101 pans. And on my last month's update on 101 pans, I came to the decision that I needed to be working on more eyeshadows in general for 101 pans if I expected to hit 101 pans by December 31st of this year. I had picked a couple more palettes on my last month's update. I will link that in the cards for you guys. Feel free to go check that out so you can see how and why I chose the new palettes that I chose. I'll show you the palettes, which was my Alter Ego Goddess palette, Summer in St. Tropez, my LA Girl Hoe Heat, and my BH Cosmetics Weekend Festival. I do have an announcement to make for my 101 pans as well, and that being said, I hit pan on my Goddess shade that was now on 101 pans. How I have decided to do this one is I randomly select my palettes, but I have my choosing in the shade in the palette. I can pick any shade I want, but I do randomly select my palettes. This was chosen for me, and I went with the shade Hera, and as you can see, I hit pan on Hera, and I used Hera a total of 27 times before I hit the pan on it. As you can see, there's a little baby pan on it, and again, it is another neutral warm brown shade, which I'm seeming to do very well with those, which is kind of crazy considering I don't wear neutrals all the time every day, but I do like them, don't get me wrong, and obviously I do because I'm panning neutrals before I'm panning that bright blue. I've only used that a couple times, so I hit pan on that. I went ahead and picked another shade. Let me go ahead and I will insert the footage to show you right now what shade and what palette that was chosen and what shade I picked, because I hit pan on this on December 16th, so it was a couple weeks ago. So let me insert the footage now so you can see the shade and the palette that was chosen. As you can see, it chose my Morphe 35F palette, which is the 35 Frost, these big old things. I have quite a few Morphe palettes. Maybe when I get further down in the year, I will learn to declutter, and I think I'm going to declutter some of these bigger palettes in the future. I went ahead and I went with the second shade in, just because these 3 are very repetitive, and being that it is a light shade, I can use it as an inner corner, brow bone, highlight, Cupid's bow, down the nose, so I felt I could get a lot of uses out of it. But unfortunately, since December 16th, I've only used it one time because it is such a big palette. It sits up on top of my thing up there and it just stays there. So I've only used it one time. So this is out, and my 35F is in, second shade in, for my 101 pans directly. So now let's go ahead and I will show you the rest of the shadows. I don't think I haven't hit any more pans in my 101 pans, but I've hit more pans in general towards my 101 pans and a couple highlighters and stuff. So that's exciting, but none for the actual eyeshadow palettes that were chosen and shades that I chose. Since on my last update on each palette that I had already had in here, I decided to pick another shadow per palette. Feel free to go check that video out. For my weekend festival palette from BH Cosmetics, for the shade Magical, I've only used it 6 times, so only a couple more uses since my last month's update. But like I said, in December I didn't really do much makeup, and I am working on a lot of eyeshadows, you guys. It's what it is. It's what I decided to do, and I'm having fun with it, so that's really all that matters. And then for the shade Boho, I'm looking down at my notes. I have only used Boho 4 times. So Boho was chosen last month and I've used it 4 times in the month. So not too bad for me considering how many shadows I am working on. Then in my BH Cosmetics that was chosen, I went with the shades Crepe, which is this mustardy yellow up here. And then last month I went ahead and I chose the shade Nightlife down here. And there is a nice dip in Nightlife as I have been using it quite a bit. We're going to go ahead and see right now on how many times I've actually used it. I will say this, the shade Crepe right here, I have a total of 4 uses on Crepe, and I haven't used it at all this past month, you guys. It's been a tough month. This summer was filled with lots of, you know, the holidays, and I had lots of ups and downs. And then the shade right here called Date Night, I have used a total, since putting it in the project, 4 times. So each one has 4 uses. I'm going to try to incorporate them and get a little more use out of them this month. We shall see. It's very challenging. My last palette that was chosen specifically for my 101 pans was my LA Girl Hoe Tote Heat Everyday Vacay palette, and that was chosen in my last update. And I went with the shades Vacay and Fiesta, and now as the month has went by, it's like, why did I pick more berry tones? I should have picked something more. Of course I don't need to pick that, but it is a berry tone palette, I guess, is probably why I didn't have much choice. Maybe I should have picked a purple, because I have used these, don't get me wrong. I've used Vacay a total of 6 times, and I've used Fiesta a total of 5 times. So, I mean, I've used them the best that I could. I could have used them more, I'm sure, but I'm glad that I used them at least 5 to 6 times. I have a lot of berry tone shades that I've been working on, so I'm glad I got a couple more neutrals. We shall see. So 5 and 6 uses from my Everyday Vacay. And of course, from my Goddess palette, since I was picking 2 shadows per palette, I almost forgot. I'm glad I remembered this just now. As you know, I hit the shade on Hera, and I also picked the shade Luna right here in my last month's update, and I've used this a total of 3 times. That is everything for this update, you guys. Thank you so much for stopping by. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And until the next video, you guys, everybody enjoy the rest of their day. Bye.